Hey folks, Phil Gallagher here for another Daily Death and Taxes. This week's week of Daily D&T was brought to you by Maxamilion S. Thank you very much for supporting my content. And a $12 donation does support a week of Daily D&T. Please consider supporting me in the future if you're enjoying this. Our hand is nothing. We're going to mulligan. Our hand has a plan. We're going to keep. My opponent has mulliganed to 5 cards, which makes me think they are a combo deck. So I'm going to keep this, and I'm actually going to bottom my Jitte, rather than, like, say, bottom a land. If my opponent had kept it 6, I would have bottomed a Wasteland. But if we're playing against something like Reanimator again, then I really just want to have disruptive elements in my hand. I'm not going to have time for a Jitte. Alright, that is indeed what's happening. Oh, okay, not quite. We're probably playing against the Hogaak deck. Do we get the free one? No second land? Seems like a yes. Remember, Mom has power and toughness. Like most creatures, she can attack. Do we have a game 1 bullet against this deck? No, not really. So we're just going to play the things that, like, produce the most power and shorten the clock as much as possible. Okay, so Walking Ballista clears bridge from below. Pithing Needle stops sacrifice outlets. Surgical Extraction does surgical extraction stuff. Path and Rip are good. Note, Deafening Silence doesn't actually stop what they're doing. So most of the time when they were playing multiple cards in a turn, it's multiple creatures, so this card doesn't actually matter. We don't really need Sanctum Prelate. Like, it being on 1 does stuff. It stops some Cabal Therapies, Faithless Lootings, that sort of stuff. But if you're making it to the point where, like, your best play is Sanctum Prelate, you're probably already pretty far ahead. Alright, I don't think I'm going to want my Sanctum Prelate. I'm probably not going to play Sword of Fire and Ice. Jitte's good, Batterskull's fine. Flicker Wisps are pretty medium. Recruiter is probably too slow to matter in this matchup. I don't want to play a Stoneforge early in most cases, so I'll probably trim one of those. I think I'd be okay trimming a Mom, trimming a Flicker Wisp, trimming a Force of Virtue. Actually, it could be that I don't even want Force of Virtue in this matchup, because a lot of times their creatures are just going to be bigger than mine if it's sort of a like one of the black creatures is going to be bigger than mine. So Force of Virtue is really just pumping the stuff that's going to be getting through in the air. That may not be worth a card in this matchup. So I think the other Stoneforge is potentially better than that Force of Virtue. So the next question is a random Flicker Wisp better than Force of Virtue? And it might be able to knock a bunch of counters off of something. So let's go with yes. The other thing I could do is just like board in a Council's Judgment. But I should respect my creature count since we're already low with this build to start. Note, our Caracas hands are going to be really good. I don't know that Bloodghast is the prize that I want to be getting here. I think I'm fine with letting them have a Bloodghast and trying to go and get something better. Like, Bridge from Below is the card that I really want to take out in this matchup. Nice, there is one. Yeah, I care about the Bridge from Below so much more than the Bloodghast. So they started to pay a cost, so I think they have Hogaak. So if they were to play around my Surgical by exiling a Bridge from Below to Hogaak, that would be pretty annoying. And I think I've telegraphed Surgical enough that I should just like get it out here. Yeah, okay, they did have the Hogaak. So they have 3 Force of Vigors, 2 Decays, 1 Assassin's Trophy that I'll need to be aware of. This Altar of Dementia is pretty annoying. This Vengevine is checked by the Mother of Runes after this turn. So that's fine. Another Mom is a fine draw. I need to go ahead and bounce this now, so they can't just like play an altar and sack it. I guess I could have done that with the altar, in response to the altar. But I have to respect my life total. I can't do something like wasteland them, I don't think. Stoneforge is interesting. So I can Stoneforge for Jitte, not showing them that I have this Batterskull. So they have a Vengevine, a Hogaak, and one mystery card in hand. I don't know that the cards in my hand are actually going to be safe. My opponent can sack some Stitcher Suppliers and Bloodghast to Ultra of Dimension, mill himself a lot, find a Cabal Therapy, you know, do that sort of stuff. Milling a Vengevine is pretty good for them. Maybe not this turn. I don't know that they can cast 2 creatures this turn. Okay. It's not a red land, notably, so they can't loot. I'm at exactly 10, so those do have haste. They can cast a Hogaak and then sacrifice it before I get priority so that I can't just immediately bounce it with Caracas. There's another Hogaak in there. Wow. Okay, so we are going to get a Batterskull. Or a Jitte. Like, we can pick which one is going to be better. I think it's Batterskull. I'm just going to pass the turn here, I think. Well, I could play this Vial out. The issue with playing the Vial out is that if my opponent ends up having a Force of Vigor, it kind of gives them a 2-for-1. And it can make some of my tapping with Caracas awkward. But I think this is a high enough upside play that I'm going to go ahead and do it. Like, I probably have about a 0% chance of being able to hardcast some of this stuff this game. I kind of need to, like, end the game in alternative ways. Yet another Bloodghast comes in. Note there's also worlds where we just mill our opponent to death. The most punishing line for me playing Aether Vial is where I end of turn put in this Batterskull and my opponent has Assassin's Trophy for my Caracas. But that's a one-of. We're not going to play around that. Gravecrawler is very good. Triple Vengevine, also pretty darn respectable. Although I'm not actually sure it's better than Batterskull. Given the context that I have double Mother of Runes. So I'm going to block one of these. I'm going to block one of these. I protect the Mom. I protect the Batterskull. And I don't actually take that much damage. Actually, my opponent, if they're savvy, will actually sack this so I don't gain the life. So this attack actually does matter, yeah. So keeping that in mind, I should have just blocked another mob here, and if they wanted to trade for the germ, I should have just accepted that, I guess. Best draw here is a land. What does Flicker Wisp do? I guess Flicker Wisp gets me another piece of equipment. No, I don't have another piece of equipment. The other one's in my sideboard currently. Alright, so let's start here. Oh boy, that sucks. Okay. I mean, that's something I knew was going to be a problem. So I can bounce this Batterskull. Am I dead if I do that? I would have, if I bounce the Batterskull, I have 3 blockers. I die to the blood guests that are coming in. So I cannot bounce the Batterskull and live, which is unfortunate. So that has to occur. So I'm going to take 2 this turn with everything that's showing. I'm getting a little bit punished for my mom block, my mom protection last turn. If I had just saved myself 4 extra damage and like potentially traded my germ or just let them like sack it anyway, I could have like Flicker Wisp the germ this turn. Right. Is that lethal now? So I block this, I block this, I block this, I block this, I die. So we surgicaled the bridges, which was super important, but it just wasn't enough. So now that I'm on the play, I can consider Council Judgment just to like exile something like Vengevine. But my creature count's already pretty darn low. I think I'm going to have to keep this as is. So we're looking to keep one of Surgical, Rest in Peace, or Ballista in our opening hand. How many light sources? $15. white sources. I think there's too great of a chance that I don't get to play a game of Magic with this hand. Holy crap, this one's so much better. I think I'm going to toss back my Rishadan port here. I think it's more likely that I'm going to want to double white spell at some point this game than I am going to want to port down my opponent. It's close. But keeping both of these means that my draws like Flicker Wisp, Mirroring Crusader, and things of that nature are actually live cards instead of dead cards. Nice! Do I want to cast Surgical Extraction now? I don't think any of those things are good enough that I actually want to extract them. The only thing that playing Surgical now would do is let me know whether or not my opponent has Force of Virtue. If they don't have Force of Virtue, I just 100% slam this. Rest in peace. If they do have Force of Virtue, everything is awkward. But I think I'm going to go ahead and slam. We'll make one of the cards in my hand worse. And we'll see if you have Force. If you have Force, like I put in a Mother of Runes. Alright, so Force of Vigor, pitching Force of Vigor. That's fine. Yes, I'll put in Mom. We really wanted to draw a 2-drop dude there. These Swords of Plowshares are now very bad since my opponent played Altar of Dementia. Very displeased about that. Pithing Needle would be a pretty acceptable draw given that. Am I going to put up with Bloodghast all game? I think I need to extract this. So my opponent has Decay and Hogaak. And it doesn't really look like their sideboarding has changed from the previous game. You can decay my mom if you want. I won't care. So my opponent gets a flashback, Faithless Looting, dump this Hogaak, and try to dig towards something that matters. Double Hogaak, okay. I will be looking to draw Rest in Peace. That is not Rest in Peace. Seems a little weird that my opponent would play out that land. That may mean that they have yet another Force of Vigor in hand. Oh no, I extracted all their Bloodghasts already. That's why they played it out. But still, like if you find a Faithless Looting, it's totally fine to still have that thing around. We'll leave this on 2 for Squadron Hawk reasons. And get punished immediately. We're going to blink out the altar, because them getting something like a Gravecrawler plus another zombie in play is one of the ways that they can go and like turn the corner on this game. I think if they brick next turn, I will just be able to aggro them out before they could aggro me out. So my opponent's build does not have flyers. They can produce a ton of hasty Vengevines. But these Swords to Plowshares either kind of like fog an attack or give them life. Alright, you have a Gravecrawler, yes. Not going to Swords to Plowshares that until I absolutely have to. I think my opponent is now on no outs. Both Flickerwisps are lethal. They've used 1 Abrupt Decay, so they would have to have both remaining decays to kill both Flickerwisps or kill me in 1 turn, and they can only produce 12 hasty power. Or no, one of those is in exile. So one of the downsides about the Hogaak deck is that most of their creatures actually can't block. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to end up with the 4-1 with Squawks and end up with some of these new qualifier points. And some old qualifier points. So this is for the Mox, this is for the Championship Series. Not exactly sure what that distinction is here. But whatever, pretty happy with it. So the build felt good this week. Again, I'm still really shaky about how this build is supposed to sideboard, because you kind of need the Force of Virtues to support the Squadron Hawk plan, but if you start by trimming a few creatures, you go under the creature count that I normally consider acceptable for D&T. So like pulling a random D&T list here, this starts with 25 creatures. So if you start by boarding out 3 or even 4 creatures, you still end up with like, 21, 22 creatures, something like that. But if you start by boarding out with 3 creatures like this, you dip below 20 creatures, which is really the threshold that I set is like, hey, I'm worried about closing the game if I don't have at least 20 creatures. Especially in this Plague Engineer world where, if one of those gets set on the wrong creature type, it temporarily invalidates a good number of your threats. So thank you all for watching this week. I hope you're enjoying. As of right now, this is all that will be recorded. So we might be missing a week of daily D&T. If I get a donation in the next couple of days, I say that on the 14th, then I'll record something for this week here. Otherwise, we'll probably miss daily D&T this week and end up starting it again on the 6th. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed. Caw-caw!